Gregg Jarrett, Fox News legal analyst, author of the #1 bestseller, The Russia Hoax, just released in paperback. David Schoen, criminal defense, civil liberties attorney. Welcome, both of you. And I guess the first question is 3 straight days of Michael Cohen going before one congressional committee after another while the president is here in Vietnam trying to denuclearize and get an agreement to denuclearize the Korean Peninsula. Gregg Jarrett.
Well, it's curious Congress would want to hear anything Michael Cohen has to say, pled guilty to lying to Congress. And now Congress wants to hear from him again.
He was
they can reasonably expect more lies. Cohen has no credibility. He's a prodigious, prolific liar. He lied to the IRS, the lawyers, his accountants, bank officials, and Congress. Now, suddenly, he wants us to believe him. Not likely. Not even prosecutors in his case believed him. They called him a liar, and they refused to engage in a cooperation agreement with him. So what's the point of all of this? He can never be called as a witness in any case because no one would ever believe Michael Cohen, and that is what is going to happen today, tomorrow, and the next day.
Is he putting himself at risk, David Schoen, meaning Michael Cohen, of yet another charge of lying to Congress? And why would any lawyer of his allow him to do this when he is, he's got 3 years in jail that he's headed towards?
Well, let's remember, at least one of his lawyers has a very clear agenda, and that's an anti-Trump, pro-Clinton, Obama agenda. So that may be one reason the lawyer would have a conflict in advising him for that basis, but that's what we've seen so far. Let's call it what it is. Michael Cohen made clear from a long time ago that his agenda now is to put himself and his family first, no matter what. Michael Cohen now trades in the currency of lies. For him, lies are cash. The more lies he tells about the president, the more friends he makes in Congress and on the Mueller team, and maybe even in the Southern District of New York. So the lawyer made a calculated decision, one would think, that he's going to help himself more by testifying and saying what Democrats on the committee and maybe what Mueller wants to hear. There are a couple real problems here. And Greg asked the question, and you asked.
Well, he would have already told Mueller, because I guess he met with Mueller many, many times by this point.
Right, or not told Mueller, as we recently saw when Mueller had to declaim something that the BuzzFeed had said. He said, but listen, think about some of the practicalities of this. If they intend to go into something that's within the bailiwick of Mueller, that's a real problem. At least we were told that was a problem before with different kind of testimony. We were told that the Mueller mandate was so broad. When we wanted to prosecute Manafort and Flynn, Mueller had carte blanche effectively. So now intelligence committees especially, which I think will prove how bad a misnomer that is for a committee's title. If they go into that area, that's a problem. But there are also privilege problems still out there. Everyone seems to have assumed those went away. I believe the president should have a representative at all 3 of these hearings to be able to invoke privilege. There should be no member of Congress who accepts in any regard or even takes a chance of accepting privileged testimony. This is not a free-for-all. Just because Cohen is going to claim potentially the president committed crimes, that doesn't open the door to all of what the media now is reporting Cohen is going to claim about what the president has said to him as his client.
And, Greg, I think this privilege issue is very important because if there's certain issues that don't involve any type of crime, where is the obligation, the ethical obligation of a lawyer to keep secret that which is said to him in an attorney-client environment?
Well, that's absolutely correct. But Cohen doesn't care. I mean, this is a guy who tried to monetize his association with Trump after Trump won the presidency. Cohen was running all over the place, bragging he could gain access and influence, and he, in fact, snookered people into thinking he could, and he profited by it financially. He's a con artist. He is the quintessential sleazeball. He was tape recording his own clients while acting as a lawyer, including Donald Trump. I mean, given Cohen's astonishing level of criminality, he should be doing 20 years behind bars.
Well, I mean, the sentencing recommendation, if I recall, was 54 to 61 months or something in that area. He got 36 months. So doesn't that suggest that he got some type of deal, David?
Of course, and it suggests other things suggest that he's still trying to make that deal even better. Let me give you 2 examples of how this could become very problematic even though everyone wants to hear it because it's such sexy testimony. Remember, these are members of Congress, among them who honored Mr. Strzok, who was an admitted liar, cheater, etc. So they're going to want all of this stuff, privileged or not, to come out, and it's inappropriate. But take, for example, the Stormy Daniels situation. People want Cohen to testify about money paid to Stormy Daniels. It's not at all clear that if money were paid to Stormy Daniels and the president approved it, that a crime was committed. So we don't bring that in under the crime fraud exception because people just want to hear it. There may have been no crime whatsoever there. It may have been an embarrassment, and people pay all the time to stop embarrassments. But what if it was Cohen who proposed a crime and assured the president that the conduct was legitimate or legal? Does that now give Cohen to be able to trade on the advice that he gave the president, get mileage out of it? We're already hearing that Cohen is going to talk about the president's financial transactions, which then the House Oversight Committee will use to demand the tax records. Cohen here, again, this is not a free-for-all. Cohen doesn't have license to open the president up to liability because of his lies, Cohen's lies.
All right, we got to take a break. We'll have more with David Schoen, Gregg Jarrett on the other side. All right, as we continue with Gregg Jarrett and David Schoen, if you look at what the Democratic Party is doing here, I don't care if I ran over some numbers earlier. Americans view our place in the world 19% higher than it's been in many, many years. The Democratic Party, look at this whole new Green Deal issue. Then they're fighting for the right to literally abort children during the birth process, which is insanity, and even stopping, a Born Alive Protection Act in case of a botched abortion. Then they want to totally remake American society. And I'm watching the radical extremists take over this party, Gregg Jarrett, and this is just adding to it. And I think for the president, the image of him in Vietnam versus the image of Democrats dragging Michael Cohen back up to Capitol Hill 3 days in a row while the president doing that is horrible optics for them in the eyes of the American people.
Well, I think you're right. And, Democrats seem to be oblivious to the obvious blowback that will likely occur by virtue of not only calling Cohen to testify before Congress 3 days in a row, but, there is this continuous push to impeach the president, articles of impeachment. They were talking about this before Trump was ever sworn into office in January of 2017, and it's only gained currency, notwithstanding
but now we have to go back, Greg. This is the Russia hoax. This is your book.
Sure.
And, when James Baker, the chief counsel of the FBI, now we know wanted to indict Hillary and was talked out of it by a political opponent that was the head of the FBI and by a Trump hater by the name of Peter Strzok, and then, of course, her obstruction of justice, then the FISA abuse, and everybody was warned what FISA was all about. Now we begin to see, as we put all of this together, it has been a one-sided witch hunt while ignoring the biggest abuse of power scandal in history. This is not hyperbole on my part. We've now produced enough evidence proving it. It's incontrovertible.
The presidency of Donald Trump has been consumed by this damning fiction, the Russia hoax. It is surely the dirtiest political trick in modern American history, secretly financed by Hillary Clinton, conceived by a foreign agent with a checkered past in espionage, and then it was brokered to solicitous collaborators at the FBI and the Department of Justice. And the premise of the hoax was as outlandish as the actions by those who advanced it. They claimed that Trump was a Russian agent who had spent years colluding with the Kremlin to steal the 2016 presidential election. And as with most political smears, it was bereft of any evidence.
All right, guys, we're going to let you go. David Schoen, Gregg Jarrett, thank you. And when